Hey, how are you? I haven't made a video for the last couple days because I was kind of not feeling so great. Instead, I decided I'm going to grind on MTGA, try to hit Mythic, and I did it. Look at that. 733 Mythic, not too bad. First time hitting Mythic, first time really dedicating any amount of time to Magic Arena, and I have actually been enjoying it a fair amount. There are definitely annoying things that happen on here, but for the most part, having a good time. And thought I'd jump on here and tell you how I made it to Mythic, play a couple of games with the deck that I primarily used. Yeah, take a look at that. I did do this in Standard. I am a little sick of Historic. Getting hit by elves and goblins is really ruining my day. So I decided to go try Standard out. And Standard seems to be in an okay place. Now, there are a lot of Yorion decks running around, and if you played against those Yorion decks, you know they are super annoying, and they always have it. But you gotta look past that and just keep pounding away. Here, standard mono green Stompy, I guess you can call it. This was the first deck that I started with, the deck that I climbed from, I think, Diamond 4 up to about Diamond 2. I made it into Diamond 1 with this deck, and then I started having issues, and I'll talk about those in a second. But it's just a mono green Stompy deck. You can see a lot of green pips there. It's playing a lot of the all-stars that you would expect. Of course, we have Questing Beast staple in any mono green deck or any green deck for that matter. We're also playing the new Vorinclex. This card was an absolute all-star when I was playing with it. I don't think people have quite adjusted to its effect. Its effect says if an opponent would put one or more counters on a permanent or player, they put half that many counters on that rounded down. So that means it's going to turn off sagas, it's going to make planeswalkers come in with half loyalty, and if the planeswalker only has a +1 ability, they're not able to accumulate any loyalty on that planeswalker. It's also going to shut down your opponent's +1/+1 strategies. For example, this deck plays a lot of +1/+1 strategies. We have Yorvo, who is just a +1/+1 dude. Instead of coming in as a 4/4, he's going to come in as a 2/2. Not quite as good. Scavenging Ooze, it's going to blank all of those +1/+1s. Horn Beetle, Swarm Shambler, all these things get blanked by the Vorinclex being on the battlefield. Oh, and if your opponent's on a Great Henge, those +1/+1s aren't going to be happening anyways, or either. Great card. If you're playing a mono green deck, I think you have to be playing Vorinclex. Even if you're not playing a +1/+1 strategy or counter strategy, I think just having him in the deck for his the effect that it has on the opponent is going to be beneficial for you. The deck is also playing a couple of Gem Razors. This card actually really impressed me throughout my experience with this deck. Its mutate is really good, especially if you mutate onto like a Swarm Shambler or a Yorvo. Those +1/+1 counters make this Gem Razor really big. So, for example, with Yorvo, if he's just a 4/4, you put him out last turn. Next turn, you mutate Gem Razor. He becomes an 8/8 Reach Trampler that is going to destroy an enchantment or an artifact that an opponent controls. That's pretty relevant because there are a lot of nasty artifacts and enchantments in the format, and I always found myself looking for this Gem Razor during my gameplay. Also playing a couple of Planeswalkers, Garruk and Vivian. Vivian, just solid. She lets you play off the top of your deck. Don't forget that if you have her on the battlefield. Always take a look over at your deck. Maybe you find something that you can put out onto the battlefield. Garruk, however, if you have a Vorinclex on the battlefield, he comes in with 8 loyalty, so you can immediately -7 him to get the emblem, and this emblem is going to run away with the game more often than not. Old Growth Troll, another new card from Kaldheim, is in the deck, and I was really impressed with this guy when I was first started playing this deck. He's a very good blocker, he's a very good attacker, he has trample, and when he dies, he's going to enchant one of your forests. It's going to ramp you a little bit, and then later on in the game, which this came up pretty often, you can pay 1, sacrifice the land, you get a 4/4 Troll Warrior. Now, it does come in tapped. I had an opponent playing against me, thought he could do that to create a blocker, and I think he was pretty upset when he realized that it came in tapped. Anyways, great card, a little bit annoying. However, Yorion. Let's talk about Yorion. Yorion is running around all over the place, and they are playing a lot of nasty removal spells, and a lot of those removal spells are exile effects. And Old Growth Troll, I found when I was getting up into Diamond 2 and Diamond 1, I wasn't able to really do much with him. He was hitting the battlefield and then he was immediately getting exiled, or maybe he gets in for 4 damage and then he's exiled. It was a real shame. What else can I talk about in the deck? We do have a couple of Blizzard Brawls. This card, Blizzard Brawl, hard to say for me, with my fat tongue. This card is amazing. You're playing snow permanents. We got 18 snow covered forests in the deck. Most of the time, you're going to have 3 on the battlefield when you use this, and it's just an absolute fantastic card. It's pretty much removal for anything in the format. When you're playing all of these big fat creatures that are most of the time going to get up to 5 toughness with this +1/+0, and they get indestructible. So you can brawl, kill an opponent's creature, and then swing in freely because it's going to maintain that indestructible until the end of turn. Also playing a couple of the Veils, which pretty good card. There's 2 more in the sideboard. I found myself bringing in the whole playset of 4 quite often, especially in those Yorion matchups. And then the last card that I want to talk about, In Search of Greatness, I think this card needs to be explored a little bit more. I was actually super impressed whenever this card was on the battlefield. You don't always get the benefit of being able to put out a permanent. However, that Scry 1 does come up every turn if you don't do anything, and it does have a relevant impact on the gameplay. One thing that I thought was kind of cute is your Old Growth Troll, if he does die and he becomes an aura, well, he's still a 3 CMC permanent, so with In Search of Greatness on the battlefield, you can still cheat out your questing beasts and your gem razors and your Garuk if you have the In Search of Greatness. Came up a couple of times, and I think it kind of surprised some of my opponents when they killed my Old Growth Troll, and then next turn I played out a questing beast for free out of nowhere. So the deck is cool. The problem with the deck, though, is that it is just a big fatties deck, and you don't have a lot of counterplay in the deck. So when I started getting up into the higher diamond tier, I started to realize that my opponents were just walking all over me. I was kind of at their mercy, hoping they would draw poorly or hoping that I would get off to enough of a quick start that I could just steal the game. And I wasn't really enjoying that. I was just kind of yo-yoing up and down between Diamond 1 and Diamond 2. And that's when I decided to switch over to the deck that actually got me into Mythic, which is Standard Gruul Adventures. This deck, very similar to the mono green deck, shares a lot of similarities. Obviously, we have questing beasts, we have our great henges, we have our scavenging oozes, and the mammoths. All of these are also in the other deck. Mammoth? Actually, maybe the mammoth's not in the deck. I have seen some variants with the mammoth, it's not. But you could definitely play the mammoth in this mono green deck. Anyways, what the Gruul Adventures deck brings is a lot more utility. First of all, you're getting a ton more card draw. Of course, we have the Great Henge if you want to draw some cards with that. You get fortunate enough to put that on maybe a turn 4, or turn 5, then you can start wheeling through your deck with creature draws. However, the Edgewalled Innkeeper, he's going to be triggering a lot more often. We're playing a bunch of adventure cards. We have 2 of the Shield Breakers, just in case you need to kill your opponent's Embercleave or your opponent's Great Henge. We also have Bone Crusher Giant, because we're playing a Gruul deck. Why wouldn't we play Bone Crusher Giant? And Lovestruck Beast. So not a ton of adventure cards, but you would be surprised how often that Innkeeper is drawing you cards throughout a matchup. Then, on top of that, we're also playing Brushfire Elemental just because it's a really good attacker, and it's also a pretty good enabler for the Great Henge. If you have this guy out on turn 4, and you're able to play down like a Fable Passage, you can crack the Fable Passage, get him up to a 5/5, and play out that Great Henge for 4. Now, that does sound like Magic Christmas Land more often than not, but you know what? It happened. So it's not something to discount. The Mammoth also does the same thing, getting out the Great Henge on turn 4. If you play him on turn 3, Landfall on turn 4, you can get out the Great Henge for 4 CMC, assuming that you had an untapped land. Next, we are playing a couple more all-star red cards, we'll say. Start with this one, the Crone War. Oh my god, this card never ceases to amaze me. Of course, it's not good in every matchup, because you might find one of those matchups like the Yorion deck that doesn't play a ton of creatures, and it might just kind of be a blank. However, you get into the Gruul mirror match, or you get into a match against Selesnya creatures, or any of these other creature decks that are running around. They're all over the place. This card is going to single-handedly swing the game back in your favor, because it will throw off your opponent's game plan immediately. And then the Goldspan Dragon, a new card from Kaldheim. I think it might be one of the only Kaldheim cards. I'm not sure if... Yes, it's looking like... Run afoul? No. Yeah, only Goldspan Dragon. So it's this is a deck that's been running around. I'm sure most of you are familiar with it, but I wanted to make a video saying that it's still very relevant. This Goldspan Dragon doesn't have the same synergy that I saw with, for example, the Izzet decks that are running around in Standard, whereas they can play out the Goldspan Dragon on turn 5, attack, hold up that treasure that counts as 2 mana, and they can hold back a Foretold Saw It Coming, or maybe a Negate, or Essence Scatter. Something that can protect the Goldspan Dragon, or anyways play against their opponent. In this case, the Goldspan Dragon doesn't really do that. It's going to make, of course, a treasure token that counts as 2 CMC, and we have some 2 CMC creatures or spells in the sideboard. But more often than not, I found myself just using him as a 4/4 beater in the air, and when he was on the battlefield, I kind of felt like most of the time I was already ahead in the game and about to win. So not really relevant. And then Embercleave. Only playing 2 of them, but they do find their way into your hand more often than not, and oh my god, Embercleave is the card that you need to be playing in Standard because, well, you know, it does everything. It's gonna beat you. Every time your opponent swings into you with 2 creatures and has 4 untapped mana, you know what's coming, and it feels real bad every time. Over in the sideboard, a couple of interesting cards. Ox of Agonis. Refill your hand if you get into a very grindy matchup. Clothis. I haven't really found a lot of use for her. If your opponent is maybe on a very aggressive game plan, maybe she's okay for that life gain. If your opponent's doing something with the graveyard, bring it in. But one of the cards in the sideboard that I think can be looked at and maybe switched out for something else. Soulsteer really impressed me. 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and then that permanent loses indestructible. This card actually saved me a number of times. You'd be surprised at how many 5 toughness creatures there are in the format, or 4 toughness creatures that are very hard to get rid of, and this card can come in to save the day. Wilt, because maybe you need to kill your opponent's Embercleave at instant speed, or one of these annoying enchantments that are running around. Fire Prophecy, deal 3 damage, sure, and then run afoul, probably to counter your opponent's own Goldspan Dragons. And there are also a lot of other little annoying flyers in the format that it could be relevant against. I haven't used this card too much, however, I have had opponents use it against me to great success, and yeah, I think it's a great card to have inside. So, if you're looking to climb the Standard ladder, you're sick of Historic or want to take a break from it at least, I think this is a great deck. It has a lot of awesome cards that are also used in Historic, so I think crafting it is not too terrible. It probably does have quite a few rares and mythics. Does it tell me? I don't think it tells me. But there are definitely a lot of rare cards in here, so it could be a deck that you might not want to craft right away. However, these cards are all very useful, and I think they'll continue to see play going forward in this Standard season as well as in Historic. It's a lot of fun to play. It's better than the mono green deck, although the mono green deck does have a certain charm to it. This deck just has so much more utility that you can use to help you get to that win. So anyways, this is the deck. Pretty fun. I'm going to play a couple of games with it and see how they go. Thanks for watching. Okay, Gruul Adventures in Standard. The deck that got me into Mythic. Let's see how it does in Mythic now. Okay, opening hand. Definitely going to need another land draw. Wish I didn't have 2 great henges in the opener, but we'll see how this one works out. Opponent leads on the Fabled Passage. We miss on the land. Okay. Cracking the Fabled Passage. What do you got, opponent? That's a mountain. Sure thing. Could be the mirror. Could be Izzet. Missing again, but kind of getting a pseudo land. So what I think I'll do is play this on the green side. Go with the Brushfire and play into my opponent's removal. Okay. So that was gonna happen. Next turn we can Brushfire into the Mammoth land to get a trigger, maybe. Might also have to Bone Crusher Giant something. We'll see what the opponent's up to. I don't think this deck has a lot of targets for the Bone Crusher, actually. So, let's see if he's willing to trade. I think I am in this case. I don't think he will be. Didn't think so. Okay, opponent. So next turn, if we get a little bit lucky with a Fabled Passage, it and the opponent has nothing, I can potentially get this Great Henge out, like I talked about in the opening part of the video. Maybe this time it really is magical Christmas land. So we don't hit the Fable Passage, but get the the Elemental up to a 3/3, maybe get in. Wondering what the opponent's holding up over there. Got something for me. Brazen Borrower, sure thing. Huh. So I think I want to put out the Innkeeper and then probably just play out the Giant. Uh-oh. Does he have an Essence Scatter? Kind of playing like he has an Essence Scatter now. Making me rethink playing out this Bone Crusher Giant. A little jealous of his special art. I definitely like the fairy tale aesthetic. There's the Essence Scatter. Okie doke. So, I think it's still Bone Crusher Giant time. Not going to stomp anything, just put out a 4/3 body. And then next turn, if I draw a land, I can try to jam one of these Great Henges. Hope it resolves. Could help me get a little further ahead in this game. Opponent thinking real hard over there about what he wants to do. No blocks. I didn't see this Izzet deck very much when I was climbing the ladder, but it is a deck that I really think is quite interesting, and I want to play it more myself. I think it has a lot of fun lines and a lot of power behind it. The ladders seem to be pretty much all Yorion. Lots of Yorion. So the opponent just plays out a red land and passes back. Well, so I could play out the Mammoth just to get the Mammoth out as another body. I could also play him out on the land side and play the Brushfire Elemental beforehand. Is the opponent maybe on a Shark Typhoon? He wants to make a 3/3 Shark, which would be pretty miserable. I think I need to get this land out. Okay. Opponent's got maybe another Bone Crusher Giant. Yep. So he's going to Bone Crusher and then probably play out the Brazen Borrower on my end step. And the opponent's going to be attacking for 7, which puts me in a pretty nasty position. Okay. What else you got? Another Bone Crusher. Okie doke. So now, unfortunately, the Great Henge, I was kind of hoping the Great Henge would get me enough life to survive, but now, of course he was going to play out the Bone Crusher. I should have considered that. So what do? I think I just die. I guess I die now. Ooh, disable stroke for that one. Okay, so that is a good showing for the Izzet deck. A lot of power, just with the cards that we're all familiar with. So what do I want to side? I kind of feel like I want to bring in the Fire Prophecies. They do a good job at getting rid of the opponent's Bone Crushers and the Brazen Borrowers. And maybe some Sharks if he's playing those. I'm sure he is. I don't think the Shield Breakers are very relevant in this matchup. And I kind of feel like the Innkeepers are just lightning rods for my opponent's removal. Do I also want to bring in a couple of Oxes instead of the Innkeepers. Maybe that's the play. I don't know if I want all 3 Oxes, though. Maybe just go up 1 Soul Seer and try it like that. So, like I said, not a whole lot of experience playing against this Izzet deck. And it's a deck that probably, if you're playing in Standard, you're going to have to get used to playing against, because it seems like it's going to be around for at least the next little while. I think it had a pretty good showing in one of the most recent tournaments, maybe last weekend or the weekend before that. I seem to remember seeing a lot of these Izzet decks popping up, which is why I was a little bit surprised I didn't see a lot of them on the ladder when I was trying to get to Mythic over the last couple days. Okay, opponent really taking his time with the sideboarding. I'm just happy I'm not playing against a Yorion deck. Those Yorion decks tilt me so much. The fact that they have so much redundancy in the deck and so many removal spells. It's a deck I want to try out. I know I don't like it, and I say a lot of bad things about it, but boy, do I want to try it. And maybe I will in a couple of days. We'll see. All right, get to play first. Oh, I guess it's probably fine. Lead on a Mammoth land, I think. Goldspan Dragon, really cool, especially in my opponent's deck. I'm not sure how good it is in this Gruul deck. Certainly it's a good card, but I'm not sure if it's going to be one of those cards that sticks in the deck as people start to tune it a little bit more. I am not much of a deck builder myself, so I'll leave that up to the smarter people who can figure out how to put these decks together, and then I'll just learn how to play it. Okay, opponent having to mulligan. Put out the Valley and pass it over to him. Okay. So I could lead on this Brushfire Elemental, get in for 1, but I'm wondering if it's maybe better just to hold it back. Yeah, I think I'm gonna play it a little bit slower. I don't really want to run into Bone Crusher Giants anymore. You might have a negate for it, in which case then I'll just Lovestruck Beast. If this resolves, I'll play out the Fabled Passage. Okay. So we get the trigger. If he responds with the Bone Crusher Giant, I can Fabled Passage to grow the Elemental a little bit more. I think I'm only going to get in for 3. There's no reason to crack the Fabled Passage right now. It just seems greedy. What do you got, opponent? Is he thinking about bouncing it with a Brazen Borrower? No. Okay. So next turn, if the opponent taps out here, I can play out the Pathway, crack the Fabled Passage, and get out this Great Henge. Like I mentioned last game. I don't know. If the opponent gets stuck on lands, it could be really good. I gotta imagine he's got some kind of counter spell, though. Really wish he tapped out there. Really wonder what the opponent's thinking right now. It must be a Brazen Borrower, right? He's just waiting for the chance to bounce it. Now will be the chance. No. Gonna grab a mountain. Always want to make sure to have 2 red and 2 green sources. I hope he doesn't have the Disdainful Stroke. He has a negate. Okay, well, that's fine. Get in for 5. Go ahead, opponent. Really surprised you would leave negate in the deck against the Gruul. Maybe it's worth it. But we are only playing a couple of Grey Henges, a couple of great Embercleaves, so. Okay, Lovestruck Beast time. Does the opponent have more counterspells? No. Well, he might be countering the beast himself. He is. Wow. Good opening hand, opponent. Bone Crusher, Essence Scatter, and Negate. Pretty good. Gotta imagine that's coming down this turn. Yeeper. And now he can leave up another Essence Scatter. Nope, he's gonna foretell something. So, I guess it's Goldspan Dragon time. Get in for 4, bud. Do I want to Lovestruck Beast baby? No. Okay, Behold the Multiverse, go in and dig in for some cards. He made his land drop this turn, so let's see what he can do with 4 mana. One to the top, 1 to the bottom. Yeah, get ready to see Goldspan Dragon all over the place if you're playing Standard. No block. Okay, so I could attack with both. Frostbite, eh? Did he kick it? How do I know if he kicked it? I guess he did kick it. Why doesn't it tell me? Or is that what that means? If somebody knows. Again, some weird things about MTGO. Because if he didn't kick it, I could flash in the Embercleave to save it, but I think he did. Did he kick it? Okay, he played out last turn, Behold the Multiverse, which was 2 CMC. Then he played out that, and then he played out that. No, he didn't kick it, right? Am I losing my mind? Okay, Behold. 1, 2. And then I don't think he kicked it. I might get super punished here. I wish MTGA was clearer about what was happening. Okay. Alright. That's cool. Yeah, you don't always need to play Embercleave out during combat, but come on, Arena, make it more clear about what's happening. I wish I could. Yeah, I guess I just don't. I haven't seen it being kicked, so I'm sure there's like some aura that goes around or something. I'm just not familiar with, you know, that animation yet. Anyways, pretty cool. Glad I made the right choice on that one. That would have been real embarrassing, wouldn't it? Ooh. So we get a game 3. Not going to change anything from the sideboard, but our opponent seems to be up to something. So I guess that was a good example of when the gold span dragon treasures can come in handy. Sometimes you got to pay the full 6 for your ember cleaves. Okay, so kind of got 3 Leons. Yeah, I think it's fine. Probably lead on this mammoth land again. Kind of feel like this Scavenging Ooze is just going to get Bone Crushed. Maybe it should have came out. But can't take out everything that's going to get hit by a Bone Crusher Giant. Maybe you can. Maybe you can. Okay, opponent having to mulligan again. Alright. So, I think kind of on the same plan as I was last game. Play out the Snow Cover Mountain next turn. Just take it nice and slow. Hold up the Fire Prophecy if I need to. Ooh, opponent on the tome. Could also just play out the Scavenging Ooze as a little bit of a Lightning Rod. It's probably fine. Bought this skin when it was on sale last week, I think, or early this week. Little disappointed that it doesn't have the effect on it, but still, that art is pretty rad. So, gotta imagine it's getting Bone Crushed. There it is. Kaboom. All right. So, Great Henge. Not drew the Great Henge. Brushfire into the Fable Passage. Same thing. I'm not going to crack it. Just gonna get in for 3. Oh, opponent came prepared. Ouch. That red cap melee is very good. Okay. Pass it back. I wonder if I have to crack this Fable Passage this turn. Probably. Oh, he's gonna play out his own Bone Crusher. Get a green source. And I miss. So, I kind of want to Fire Prophecy the Bone Crusher, throw away one of these cards. Which card do I even throw away, though? Is it the Great Henge, maybe? Because I really want to make my land drop this turn. Gonna take an extra 2 damage. No big deal. Maybe it's the Ox? It's probably the Ox. Hey. So, play out Heart's Desire, get a 1/1, and next turn, play out some big fat people. Lovestruck Beast, and then hopefully the next turn after that, Great Henge. Maybe a little hopeful, but opponent is down to 2 cards. He does have his Maze Mind Tome, though, that he chooses not to scry with. Is he digging? He's digging. Ooh. Okay. So, the gate is open. Play out the Lovestruck Beast. Tag for 1. Your go, opponent. Okay. Keeps it on the top. Must have liked what he saw. Gonna draw. Okay. Plays out a land. Well, we find our fifth greens or red source. Not fifth land, second red source. Do I want to jam the Great Henge? Do I think he has counterspell? Probably, right? But I think I probably have to play it out. Yep. He has a lot of trust issues with these, with the program. Manual tapping this land. Okay, the Disdainful Stroke. Well, that was going to get the Questing Beast or one of these other cards, so not a whole lot. He might end up Bone Crushering the human here, turning off the Lovestruck Beast. Bone Crushering, turn that into a verb, sure. Okay, I'm gonna attack with both. Get in for 6. Okay, and he draws. So these Maze Mind Tomes are really getting him back into this game and actually might give him just what he needs to overcome me. It's also going to gain him some life, which is ridiculous. I have a friend that's always complaining that all artifacts have life gain tagged onto them now unnecessarily. Why does this gain him 4 life, he would say. Yeah, I guess I kind of agree. It's a little bit bullshit. But, oh well. At least it has really cool art. Digging more, wow. Leaving up 3 mana. Looking like another counterspell. Alright. Go Questing Beast. I'm not sure this Acron War is going to pay off, but hopefully he plays out like a Bone Crusher Giant later on, or something that I can scoop up with the first stage of the saga. Okay, he has a Frostbite to take out my poor girl. Oh, goodness. Well, you got a sack of land. But not a big deal. What a... Ouch. That hurt. What a turnaround. Those are 2 cards I didn't want to see my opponent on right now. Alright, this one seems to be getting away from me a little bit. Alright. Put out the Mammoth. And pass the turn. Yep, throw that in, grow the Mammoth a little bit, and attack for 5. Try to attack for 5. Got to imagine the opponent has something to stop what I'm doing. He's on 4 cards. They can't all be lands. Or can they? Wow. Gotta imagine he's on counter magic then, if he's not dealing with this. Do I just try to send a Bone Crusher face and play out the Bone Crusher? He's gotta have counter magic for this, right? Gotta have counter magic for it. Let's get greedy and try to get that extra value. Does the Izzet deck play a sweeper? Maybe? It's very possible that he's just drawing extremely horribly. Another land. Cycling the Shredded Sails. This is a card that I just recently kind of discovered. I hadn't seen it played very much in anything else, and it's a pretty cool card. So he ended up killing my mammoth with the frostbite while I was talking. So play out the questing beast. Attack you for 8. Wow. I really want to know what's in the opponent's hand. This is a real shame for him. I don't know. I don't think I had any right winning that game. Opponent was digging for cards with those Maze Mind Tomes and just couldn't put anything together. Really unfortunate for him. He must have just drawn a bunch of lands. Anyways, you take those wins because it's going to happen to me eventually. So yeah, pretty cool. Go on to the next one. Okay, another game with Gruul Adventures. Just beat Izzet Controller, Izzet Midrange, whatever you want to call it, in a very close game. Not sure I deserved it, but I mean, you know, whatever. You take them. This hand is looking a little sketch, but I think it's just good enough to keep it. The lands might be a bit of a problem going forward. I'm not really a fan of having only one green source, but we'll see. Opponent leads on the Fabled Passage. I will also lead on a Fabled Passage. Probably going to crack that on his turn. It is a Yorion deck. Of course it's a Yorion deck. So now you get to see me be absolutely miserable playing a game of Magic. Opponent plays out a Swamp. Somehow finding that perfect mana for a turn 7 ultimatum. Predicting it right now. Ooh, well, find the land, but not a good one. I can't imagine this Shieldbreaker being very relevant in this matchup, so I might just put it out as an attacker right now. Get on the board. If he wants to use a removal spell on it, perfectly okay. Trading a Shieldbreaker for an Eliminate. There's another land for the opponent, and we find a mountain. So still a little bit stuck on green mana, which is quite annoying. I think I'm just going to play out a value Bone Crusher Giant. Not a whole lot of targets for his Stomp in this matchup. Would have been nice if he played that out on the creature side. Alright, search your library for a card, put that card into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. Return up to 2 permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. And of course he had of course the Yorion deck had green, blue, black. Alright. Well, get to attack. He was only able to return the Fabled Passage, though, so not too bad. I think I want to draw a card here. It might be... This might be greedy. Is this too greedy? To play out the Edgewall Innkeeper and a Bone Crusher Giant? Yeah, I think that's too greedy. I'm going to change my... I've been getting hit by Extinction Event and the 5 CMC one that's slipping my mind, whatever it's called, that exiles all creatures 3 CMC or less. These are going to get hit by both Extinction Event and that other card that seems to be coming. He got double black, so I got to assume it's going to be that Spectre something. We'll see if he plays it. Oh no, it's just Elspeth's Nightmare. He's going to kill my Edgewall Innkeeper. Okay. Well, I think I'll fling this off at his face. Send a message. He gets stomped by a giant. Heartless Act deals 2 damage to the opponent. Sure thing. Well, I guess I make a board. I should read what this does. Target opponent reveals their hand. Choose a non-creature card. Okay. Well, I got to imagine that he's probably going to take the Great Henge. The Crown War could be very relevant, though, in this matchup. And the Great Henge, if he's able to kill the Bone Crusher Giant, maybe he doesn't really care about it because it'll be so high costed that I can't play it out. And if he's planning on playing a blocker route, no. Okay. Another Elspeth's for my other Innkeeper. You got it. And he foretells a card. All right. Let's get in. Bang, bang. Finally find a second green source. That maybe was another argument for not taking the Great Henges. I couldn't play it out. Oh yeah, that was going no matter what. Okay. Bye-bye graveyard, bye-bye hand. Wow. All right, so the opponent's spinning his wheels quite a bit, and yeah, pretty awesome. So against the Yorion deck, I probably want some way to deal with their enchantments. I don't think I need shield breakers. Do I want Clothis? Maybe? I like how she sparkles. Ooh. Like a child. Yeah, I kind of want to bring them in. I think over the course of the game, she's going to be that repetitive bit of damage that I might need to get that last little bit in to win. I don't really like the Akroan War. Next card that I'm wondering about is the Ox. Could be good for refilling my hand at some point during the game. And then do I want to bring in the Soul Seer to deal with Yorion? Because once Yorion's on the battlefield, he'll be quite annoying to get through. And right now I don't really have anything that can deal with it. I think Soul Seer is probably better than Run Afoul. Yeah. Do I just take out the Scavenging Oozes, maybe? Yeah. I don't think they're going to be eating a lot of creatures from the opponent's deck. Okie dokie. That's a hand, right? Okay, a little bit better. No, I mean, not great, but it's still a little bit better than what I had. Maybe just throw away a forest. Yep. I should mention, if you get this deck online or whatever, it's not going to have snow-covered forest in it. I just put the snow-covered forest in it simply because I really like the art on them. Yeah, that's it. So, lead on the forest, pass it over to the opponent. Okay. Pathway pass. Ooh. I think I'm going to... Yeah, I'm going to throw this at his face now. Again, messages. Could you imagine getting that big old boot in your face? Like this poor guy. I don't think I've ever realized that he's actually stomping on some guy before. Oh, man. That guy is so dead. That's brutal. All right. Opponent cultivates. Sure. Gets 2 swamps, so he's looking kind of angry over there. So I'll play out a forest. Do I play out the mammoth or do I play out the giant? I think I'm going to play out the mammoth. Let's see if he has some kind of removal for it. got my favorite new card, Binding the Old Gods. Love-hate relationship with this one right here. Okay. Yeah, this card is just an all-star, and it's one of those cards that the Yorion decks seem to draw very consistently. If they're able to bounce it with the Yorion, I feel like it's kind of game over for you. Okay, we got the Chariot. This card I'm not sure about. Seeing it more and more. Yeah, just a weird one. All right, Goldspan Dragon it is. Ooh, has the Heartless Act for it. Okay. Well, I don't think I'll attack into the kitty cats. Those are some big old kitties that now have Death Touch until the end of turn. There's the perfect ultimatum. So this is the thing that I think tilts me the most about this deck, is that they definitely always find the ultimatum, which, you know, is not totally unreasonable. He did have a Cultivate. And so the Valky will come in as a Tybalt. So I'm kind of in a position here where it doesn't really matter which one I choose. Do I give him an 8/8 and a Planeswalker, take away his extra turn? Or do I give him an 8/8 and an extra turn? Or, yeah, honestly, yeah, it's kind of just, it's over at this point. If you can get out an ultimatum on turn 7, I think your chances of winning the game are basically 99% at that point. So I'm gonna let him do what he's doing, so you all can see it beat on me. But this was kind of my experience when I was going through the ladder. A lot of the time it was that turn 7 ultimatum, and it's just, you can't really do anything about it. That's a cool thing. I didn't realize that that's what was gonna happen. I guess I block. Still dead. Taking that, and it's 16 damage from the 2 Krakens, so pretty neat. Yeah. Ow. All right. Don't have a whole lot to play against what the opponent's doing. The opponent's strategy is very much delay the game until he can fix his mana and then play out the ultimatum and then win, because it's a I win card. Sure, keep this one. A little bit slow with these Fable Passages, but that's okay. I think I'm gonna lead on green and put out the Heart's Desire right away. Get in for that 1 damage on turn 2. It might be relevant. But yeah, the Yorion deck, for having 80 cards in it, is impressively consistent and full of redundancy that helps them get to where they need to be, right? I am going to crack this now. I need a land drop, an untapped land. This Fable Passage is not going to be good enough. Miss. All right. Well, this little human might have to go all the way. All right. So we'll do this again. Sure. And you know what? We'll save some time. I think I'm going to grab a red source. Yeah, it's really, the Yorion deck is super cool. It's just, when you play against it continuously, it starts to get to you. There's the turn 3 Cultivate, so he's gonna have, his mana at this point is probably fixed, I gotta assume. And I'm not really presenting much of a threat with just this little girl. Missing lands, big problem. But put out a 5/5. It's something. It's pretty good for turn 3. You imagine turn 3 5/5?
That's great. Minding the old gods. There it is. Always in the top. Oh, alright. Alright. Put out the Bone Crusher Giant. Pass it over to the opponent. He goes and gets another forest, which is probably going to be another Triome. Yes, it is. And I got to imagine the next turn is Ultimatum turn. And pretty much dead. Oh, Valky. Sure. What does he take? Bone Crusher? Gold Span. Alright. Definitely gonna have to try out the deck. I want to see how it works because it always works. Oh, that right there is the tilt. You want to bet that one of these cards is an ultimatum? I would go hard on that bet. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It doesn't matter. All right, I'm gonna put Vorn Clicks back in the deck just because I don't want to see it. But yeah, this is the Yorion deck. This is exactly what I experienced, and I don't think there's a whole lot. Obviously you're playing Gruul. Like, this is the ideal matchup for him. Yeah, this is exactly the deck he wants to see. Maybe the Izzet deck that we played in the last game would have a little bit of a better matchup against the Yorion deck, but unless they stumble, there's really nothing that my deck can do. And we saw it in game one. We were able to get a win, but it's pretty rough. All right, take a loss there. Try another one. All right, one more game with Gruul Adventures. Get to play first against another Yorion deck. This is my life. Yorion's everywhere. I think I played against Pretty God on my climb up to Mythic. So good on you for making it to Mythic as well. So lead on a Lovestruck Beast. He kept 7. Looking pretty iffy. Do have quite a bit of aggression though with this Brushfire Elemental. However, you got to imagine he is playing adequate removal for the Brushfire. Heartless Act? Heartless Act. Every time. Oh, Bloodchief's Thirst. Alright. As much as I would like to play the Innkeeper with the Lovestruck Beast, I think I need to get it on the board and start pressuring. Okay, opponent on nothing, so I'm just going to jam the Questing Beast. Try to swing in for 10. Gotta imagine it's a Eliminate or something. It's a Shark Typhoon for 1. Okay. So does he block the 1/1 or the 5/5? He's okay. Ooh, changing his mind. If he blocks the 1/1, he might be thinking that the Lovestruck Beast could be, turned off to a degree. But we do have the Innkeeper in reserves. So if the opponent stumbles on this next turn, I might be able to steal a win. Swamp is not stumbling. Binding the Old Gods is not stumbling. 3 in a row. 3 games in a row, the opponent has Binding the Old Gods on turn 1. Or on turn 4. Sorry. It's like clockwork. They never miss it. Great uncommon. You know, glad it was printed at uncommon, so everybody can play it. And the extinction event conveniently on odd. So now, questing beast or bust. Excuse me. Go get another forest. Excuse me. Okay, opponent foretells something. Love struck beast, okay. Yep. 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 So, yeah. He had good ordering there. He had the Sod coming first and then the Behold. Good on ya. Gotta imagine I'm not going to be resolving anything I draw off the top. Hey, I'll resolve that. Yeah. There's the Cultivate. A little bit later than I normally would see it from the Yorion deck. Our opponent, our last game, was much better at drawing the Cultivates. Hey, it's a Bone Crusher Giant. That is something. Can send it face, maybe. Let's try it. I think now is as good a time as any. He might have a Saw coming lined up. We'll see. Saw it coming, behold, saw it coming. Yeah. So unfortunately, I mean, all formats are going to have the miserable things. You play Historic, you're going to get beat on by elves. If you play this, you're going to get ultimatumed. Oh, boy. So I still think Clothis is okay in this matchup. And I think the Ox is probably okay, too. Try it like that. I don't know. I really don't know what to do against the Yorion decks because... I just don't know. They always have it. Gotta try it out for myself. Gotta try it out. See what it's operating with on the back end. How it feels. I think my win rate against the Yorion decks must be like 10% maybe. It's not great, but maybe it'll get me there. Ooze. Go. Yep. Into a Bone Crusher Giant. What do you got? Conveniently missing the second land, second red source. Unfortunate for the Gruul deck, there isn't a good dual Gruul land right now in Standard. There is the Temple, but I don't think you really want to be playing that. Uh-huh. Well, that's okay. Yep. Cultivate? Oh no. Gotta imagine that's a saw coming. Pretty good hand for our opponent. Thirst, act, and now what I assume is the saw coming. It might be Behold. Both are good. Ooh, he lets it resolve. Probably not scared of a 1/1. Maybe he was just wondering what else I could be playing out for 4 mana. Taking his time with the counterspell. Yep. And making them land drops while having all the interaction. It's remarkable. But I guess this is what happens when you kind of have a card in the format that just kind of wins. Like they can just play a deck, 50 cards that are lands or enablers or removal, and then have that one card win condition that is Ultimatum, because it is so impactful. Pretty much every time they play Ultimatum, it's game over. So he's just able to delay the game out until that inevitable point. Continues to make the land drops. Yorion now. Sure. Well, the Goldspan Dragon's not bad. Cool thing here is if I get to attack, I can actually play out the Embercleave. Why do I hope? Why would I do that? Why would I hope when our opponent's 5 cards are like that? Alright. Do I just equip the Embercleave to her? Maybe. Yeah. Sure. Get in there. Beat up that guy. Yeah. So opponent is taking a little bit longer to get to the Ultimatum, but you got to imagine it's coming. Uh-huh. At least this one exiles itself and doesn't shuffle back into the library. I got it. It has to be tier S deck, right? The Yorion deck. Whatever. Yeah. So be prepared to run into this thing continuously. Yes. cannot play the Ox. Good game. Yeah. Yeah. All right, a little unfortunate to run into Yorion's back-to-back, but that's what happens. Is the opponent going to BM? I have no cards in hand. Come on, man, just swing. Mm. All right. Go to a wrap-up. Okay, so standard Gruul, fun deck. Like I said, I made this video to show the deck that helped me get to Mythic. It was this one plus the mono green deck that I talked about in the opening. It's a good deck. It's a very strong deck. But if you don't like losing to Yorion, which is what I said in the opening, this deck does a little bit better against that deck, but it's still awful. So if you're running into a lot of Yorions in the meta at that time when you're trying to climb, maybe this is not the deck that you want to be on. However, if you're up against a lot of aggressive decks or other creature-based decks, pretty great deck. It's a lot of fun. The problem right now is just those very, very strong control-y mid-range decks, whatever you want to call them. It kind of does everything. Going to remove all your creatures and then play out an ultimatum and just inevitably win. It doesn't need the Yorion. The Yorion's just the icing on the cake for that deck. But it is incredibly consistent, incredibly redundant, and going to ruin your day every time you play against it. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about building this Gruul aggro deck. Like I said, I liked it. It did do well for me, but be careful. Anyways, thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one.